Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar on what is new in ESC version 13. This is part of our ongoing series of free webinars that we present to help you get the most out of your ESC software. My name is Cara Kreider. I'm Director of Marketing here at Desco, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Before we get started, just want to tell you a little bit about how this presentation is structured. It is set up so that although you can hear us, we cannot hear you. So if you'd like to ask a question, please use that question feature on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll go ahead and try to answer any questions we can throughout the presentation. If we can't get to yours just due to time constraints, either stay logged on with us after the audio presentation has concluded, or send me your contact details and we'll be sure to have someone follow up with you either today or tomorrow to make sure you get the answers that you're looking for. This webinar is going to be recorded, so if you have anybody in the office that wasn't able to attend, we'll be posting a link of this recording either on the dashboard or through an email, so please go ahead and look out for that as well. At this point, just going to turn things over to Eric Rawson, your presenter, to help us get a little bit more acquainted with ESC version 13.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I want to talk to you a little bit today about version 13. This is something we just released on Monday, and want to show you a little bit about what's in it for you guys. When we were setting up to work with version 13, we really had a primary focus of making the mobile experience better. And we kind of broke that mission statement down into three sections. We wanted to give a better presentation to the customer, we wanted to make the software easier to use, and we wanted to enhance the quoting features so that everything was easier for you guys to go ahead and create quotes, follow up on quotes, and basically be able to generate more revenue in the field. So what I'd like to start out doing today is kind of show you the mobile section. When we're done with that, we'll come back and take a look at some of the features that have been added to ESC as well, and then follow up with some question and answers at the end. So to start out with, I'm going to switch over to my dispatch board. And on my dispatch board, you can see I have some calls out here under unassigned, and the mobile user that I'm using today is Ed. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these dispatches and assign it to Ed. So I'm just going to assign it to Ed at 3:15 here. And when I do that, I'm going to bring up the mobile device here. Now on the mobile, one of the new features in ESC on the mobile is the ability to get dispatch notifications. These are notifications that are going to show up on the phone themselves whether or not the app is running. So this is a huge feature. Unfortunately, it's also one that I can't really show right at the moment because I'm vaguely terrified that someone is going to call my phone in the middle of this presentation. So I turned off all notifications, I turned all that stuff off for the purposes of this demo. But it is a fantastic feature. It's one of those things that's great because you can set those notifications to vibrate, you can set them to a particular ringtone, so the technicians will know when you assign them a new dispatch. So a very, very powerful feature, and one that, again, I'm sorry I can't show, but it's going to be a lot better than having that phone call come in the middle of this presentation. But what I would like to show you is, let's take a look at that dispatch now. So when we come to the dispatches section, I can tap on refresh here, and when I do, it's going to bring up that call for Nick Vinolas. So I want to go ahead and drill down into Nick Vinolas and kind of walk through this whole presentation, how this would normally work in the field. Now some of this stuff that I'm going to be showing you is stuff that's already been in ESC, but again, it might be worth a refresher course because a lot of people don't know about all these features. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's already there as well as some of the new features. So when we first drill down into a dispatch, the first thing we're generally going to want to do is to change our status. Now you can see right here at the top of the screen, I've got all my information about my dispatch. I can see who I'm going to work on. I can see where they're located, contact them if I want to. And if I scroll up a little bit here, you're able to see that I can change my status right here. So right now the status of this is set to scheduled, but I can just as easily come in here and change the status to traveling. Now when I do this, I'm just going to tap on OK, and it's going to go ahead and automatically set my status to traveling when I do that. So if we scroll back down there, you're able to see that the status is now traveling, and if we look at the dispatch board, you can see the icon will go from a little notification icon letting you know that the tech actually has a dispatch to when it refreshes, it'll actually show you a little truck icon to let you know that we're traveling now. Now, what a lot of people weren't aware of is that in previous versions of ESC, and in this one as well, you can actually tap on the address, and when you tap on the address, it can go ahead and bring up a map for you. So right now it's bringing up a map showing me exactly where this customer is. I can get driving directions and basically just see exactly what I'm going to do. I can see exactly how to get there, get turn-by-turn driving directions, all very cool, very easy to use. And then I can switch back to the app at any point just by double-clicking it, and I go right back to my application. So once I get to the job site, at that point, we're going to change the status to a working status. And to do that, I want to show you a different way to do that. We originally did this by changing it right here in this status field. But if we keep scrolling, you'll see that we'll get down into a part down here at the bottom where we'll have a bunch of different options. One of those options is the ability to change status. So I'm going to use that one. Really no difference between them, just whichever one you're more comfortable with. So I'm going to select that, and now I'm going to change the status to working. Now once we're in a working status, and I apologize, this is one of those things that I just thought I'd blocked. But we'll go into a working status now, and at this point, we're out at the job site. We're going to do a diagnostic of the system. So we introduce ourselves to the customer, we go out there and we start doing some work on the equipment to find out what we need to do. So at this point, we can go ahead and look at all the different things. We can go ahead and send notes back to the office if we want to. We can view the equipment that's attached here. So if we take a look at the equipment, I can see what equipment the customer has, and I can actually attach any one of these pieces of equipment just by tapping on the item, editing it, and then saving it. I don't have to make any kind of changes to it whatsoever, but if I wanted to at this point, I certainly could. And some of the custom fields that you could set up, I could even enter the condition of the equipment. So I could go ahead and update that as we're going along if I'd like to. Now I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And again, we'll go ahead back to diagnosing the equipment. And I apologize for a little bit of the shakiness here. We're trying a new app to show this stuff on the screen in real time. So now that we've got this in here, we want to go ahead and tell the customer what we need to do to fix the issue. We've done our diagnostics. We want to go ahead and create a pre-approval that we can show to the customer saying, hey, this is what it's going to take to get everything fixed. Now before I do that, I do want to go in and just view these service agreements to see if this customer has one. Looks like this customer has a gold agreement, but if we look at this, it looks like it's actually expired. So give the screen a second here to catch up. There we go. And we can see that expired back in March. So we want to go ahead and try to renew this while we're out here as well. So I'm just going to go back. And back on our main screen, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see we have an option to create an invoice. So I'm going to create the invoice. And this is going to bring up one of the first of the new features that I really want to show you, apart from the notifications, is we have the ability, when we're adding an item, to do a much easier search. We had a lot of feedback from you guys saying that, hey, it's a little difficult to do some searches on this, too many fields, too many places you had to type. We tried to get rid of all of that and give you just a single field to type in whatever you wanted to, and it's going to find it. So in this case, let's say that we need a start capacitor to go ahead and get the unit working again. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in start cap, or try to, with fat fingers. And I don't want to type out the whole thing, so I'm just going to type in part of it. And when I do that, I'm going to click search. Now one of the things that's really cool here is it's looking for anything that has start capacitor in there. So start and capacitor don't even have to be together, as you can see on this very first item. As long as you got that in the description, in the part number, in the category, the subcategory, the manufacturer, the model, we're searching all of that real time for you automatically. So finding the parts you need should be much, much easier. Now I'm going to scroll down and pick the particular start capacitor that I want to use, which is this bottom one here. And when I choose this, again, this screen hasn't changed a whole lot. Here you're going to be able to set your quantity, you're going to be able to change the description if you want to, change the amount if you need to. But one of the things we did add here, which I think is a great, again, time-saving feature, is the ability to just go ahead and click Save and Add New down here at the bottom. By doing that, we're not going to have to go back to the search screen again. We're just going to be able to go ahead and start typing in another description, another part number, whatever we want to find, without having to say, hey, now I'm going to add yet another item. It just does this for you as we're saving it. So I can just quickly go through and do this. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in some labor. And one of the things I wanted to point out here is that as we do this, if I search for something that is an actual part number or a billing code or a history code, it's automatically just going to bring up that part. It doesn't even take you to the search results screen, it just takes you right into the actual part itself. Now right now I'm doing all of this on an iPhone. Same kind of concepts are going to apply whether you're using an iPad, whether you're using an Android device, Windows Phone 7, Windows Phone 8, or even the laptop clients. But one of the things that's kind of cool about both the Android, the iPhone, iPad, and the Windows Phone 7 and 8 devices is they do have a speech-to-text feature. And when we're doing an invoice, what we really want to do is to be able to capture exactly what it is we're doing for the customer. We're going to change the description of some part. It could be a history code. In this case, I like doing it with a labor code because we want to show the customer what it is we're doing. So at this point, I could type in exactly what it is we're going to do, but I'm going to be brave and we're going to try the speech-to-text feature. Just wrote about this in our recent newsletter. I don't know if you guys read it, but let's see how accurate the iPhone is. Now again, a lot of this is going to depend on how you guys talk, what kind of device you have, but again, it could be an interesting experiment or it could be hugely embarrassing. We'll find out here in a moment. Flush drain line, period. Replace start capacitor and clean the coil, period. So basically, one of the things you do have to do whenever you're doing the speech-to-text is you do have to go ahead and actually mention your punctuation. If you don't actually speak the punctuation, it'll do it with no punctuation. And while that works very nicely when Cara is typing messages back to you guys, not so much when we're giving something to the customer. Now you can see it actually did a fairly decent job here, but for some reason, the iPhone never picks up any of my EDs for like flushed or replaced. So in that situation, again, rather than typing, I can just come right here, go to the end, and then just type in my extra bit, and let it auto-correct that, which I don't think it did. So flush drain line, come right here to replaced. And again, this is going to be up to you to decide whether this is faster or just going ahead and typing it in is going to be faster. And then I'm just going to get rid of this extra ER here at the end. So we've got the information there. At this point, obviously, we can add more stuff if we want to. I'm just going to say we're done with that. And I'm going to change the quantity of the hours to be a total of 2 hours that we're going to be out there. So at this point, again, I'm going to do save and add new. Still a couple items I want to add here. So we've got the basic repair on there. But now I want to go ahead and add not only a service agreement renewal, which I really want to get them to do, but I also want to show the customer exactly what kind of discount they're going to get on today's repair if they renew that service agreement with me. So to start out with, I'm going to type in a DISC, which is my basic discount code. I know this one already, so it'll just pop it right up for me. Change my discount amount to 10%. And save that. And now I actually want to do one more item. I should have done the save and add new. And this one is going to be my service agreement. So again, I apologize. Looks like there's a little bit of a lag between what I'm typing and what you guys are seeing on the screen there. I'm going to put in my service agreement, and I'm going to say that's $195. And it'll automatically do a quantity of 1 for me. So at this point, I've got everything on here that I want to show the customer. I've got my actual start capacitor, I've got a labor to replace that, as well as cleaning the coil. I've got a discount that I'd love to give to them if they renew that service agreement with me. So now it's time to go in and show this to the customer. So down at the bottom there, you're going to notice an authorization option. When we tap on authorization, it's actually going to bring up something that we can show to the customer itself. Now you'll notice right up here at the top that we're showing you some legal verbiage. This verbiage is completely customizable, so you can put in whatever you want there. You can put in as much information as you want, as little information as you want, but this is trying to mimic a lot of what you guys had on your paper invoices. So we want to get the customer's authorization to do this work, and before I would show it to the customer, I would check off these two items. So I would say right off the bat, all right, to go ahead and get this repair done today, we're looking at about $297.54. However, if you renew your agreement with me, not only are we going to come out there and clean your unit a couple times a year, we're also going to give you 10% off of parts and labor for anything you have any issues with from this point forward for that life of the agreement. And that's going to save you $30 today, plus again going to ensure your equipment is running fine for the next year to come. So at this point, the customer can choose whether they want that or not. If they want it, again, we just leave it checked. If they don't, we can just tap it and it turns it right off. But right now, let's say that we were successful in selling that, and I'm just going to tap down there at the bottom where it says accept and capture signature. And when I do that, we'll capture the customer's signature. Sadly, that looks very much like my signature when it's actually written out as well. And we're done with this part. So we've got the authorization from the customer to go out there and do the work. So at this point, we'd actually get down to it. So normally we would tap the back button up there at the top, and then we would use the rest of the features down here where we might add some notes. Hey, this is what we're doing if we wanted to tell someone in the office. We can view history. We can attach documents if you wanted to go ahead and take a picture. This would be a perfect time to do that. So some neat stuff that you can do right then in the field while you're finishing this up. But basically, at this point, once we get done with the dispatch, we're going to change the status back to complete. So I'm going to change the status to complete when we're finished with the work. And at this point, we're going to take you to a new finish screen. And this finish screen is going to give you the chance to change the status here if we got to this screen in error. It's going to show us the total invoice amount, which we can see right there. A customer already signed off on that, so that should be good. And it's going to show us the payments. And I'm going to go ahead and select a payment here. Customer is going to pay us with a check. I just simply enter in the check number and save it. And then I'm going to go back. It takes me back to my finish screen. And now I can see the payment on there. I can see my total outstanding amount is 0, which makes me very happy. I can see that for the authorization, we already had that captured. Now the last thing that I want to do is I'm going to give you guys a chance to capture an acceptance signature. This is something that now that you're done with the work, customer says, yes, this work was done to my satisfaction, everything is working fine. So this would be the last piece of the puzzle. So we would go ahead and tap on customer acceptance signature, and again, when we do this, notice that again, the work acceptance verbiage here is completely different than we had with the authorization. So this is a chance, again, you can customize this, put in whatever you like. If we had selected some items or unselected some items, those items wouldn't show up here. They're only showing the stuff that the customer accepted. So at this point, we're just capturing the signature one more time. And coming back to the finish screen. So now we can see that both of those signatures are captured. It gives me the ability to finish this. Now again, trying to keep things very simple and easy to use, we're giving you another chance here to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not quite done with that. So we can say no at this point if we're really not done. At this point though, we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's, we're ready to go. I'm just going to tap on yes, finish. And this is going to bring up, again, another presentation layer that we're trying to go ahead and give you guys to make you look more professional, to allow you to interact with customers the way you want to. So on this screen, you can see that we have the ability to send the invoice as email, just like you always have. But one of the things that we're doing here that's a little bit different is you can now view that invoice. And viewing the invoice is the mechanism that we're giving you to be able to print this in the field quickly and easily. So really what the ESC Mobile is doing is it's bringing up a PDF version of that invoice. And you can zoom into this. One of the things I'd like to show you is that down here at the bottom, I've got my contract authorization, which has all the verbiage that the customer signed, as well as their signature. And if I scroll off to the side here a little bit, you're able to see that I also have the work acceptance information in there as well, with the same verbiage that they actually saw on the screen and their signature. So we can embed that onto the actual invoice itself so the customer can see that. We have a copy of it as well. Kind of perfect. But where it really gets cool though is we click this share button up here at the top. And by tapping the share button up there at the top, it allows you to bring up an application that can deal with a PDF image. Now you can see on the iPhone that gives you a couple of different options. The one I'm going to choose right now is going to be to open this in iBooks, which is a free program that comes on all the iOS devices. So it'll be on all your iPhones, all your iPads. On Android, there's different programs, and I'll show you a quick list here as soon as we get done with this. So you can see some of the programs that we've tested, we know work well. You can see another one listed right here, which is that Brother PJ673 printer. A very nice little thermal printer. It's about the size of, it's only about the size of a ruler, but slightly taller. Really fantastic little printer. Thermal, works great in the trucks. Again, great option if you're using an iOS device. But right now, we're just going to keep this open in iBooks so you can see what happens. So in iBooks, you can see the PDF comes up, and at that point, you click the share button there. You can choose to print, and then this will work with basically any AirPrint device that you have available. So in the office here, we've got a few, and we should be able to see them start to appear here. So I would just tap on the printer that I wanted, and I could print this right in the truck. Now obviously, we're not going to go ahead and support this printing section. What we're doing is we're creating the PDF, we're passing it off to the programs such as iBooks, such as the Brother app, and at that point, that application is responsible for printing it. So we will do our best to go ahead and let you know what programs we've tested, what printers we've tried, which ones work well, which ones we have more reservations about, so you guys get a good feel for that out there. But I think bottom line is you're going to have an easy time with this. A lot of the printer apps, I think the most expensive one that we found was like $13 on the Android. And but again, it worked with just about everything. It worked with Bluetooth printers, Wi-Fi printers, so very robust, very cool. But again, right now, the responsibility of ESC is going to be to get that PDF to that other application, and then the other application is going to print it. So unfortunately, if you can get that PDF to the application and it doesn't print, we can't help out a whole lot. But again, keep your eye open. I'm going to show you a quick list here. Let me actually switch over to that right now for a second. And you can see right here when I'm talking about printing from mobile, if you're using an iOS device, there's a printer share app for $5, iBooks, which is free. There's that Brother one that we just are playing with right at the moment. Looks very good. On the Android, again, you're looking at about $13 for the printer share, but this one allows you to use Bluetooth devices, USB devices, Wi-Fi devices. Very, very cool. Cloud Print, HPE Print. Some really good programs out there, and again, as we find more, we'll keep adding to that list, so you'll be able to see what you can use, and again, you still have the ability to email just like you always have. Right now though, I'm going to go ahead and just zip back into ESC, and at this point, just say that we're done with this. So when we're finally done, we've printed the invoice, we've emailed the invoice, we can just tap down there at the bottom and go back to our dispatch list. This will remove the dispatch from the device. You can see that it completed from our dispatch board as well. And then when we go to invoice, we'll be able to import from mobile, and you'll see that dispatch right there, along with all the parts we put on there, including our wonderful speech to text. All that stuff comes in, payments received, we save it, we're done. So that showcases some of the new workflow, showcases the new searching for parts, being able to get the dispatch notifications, being able to print, and more importantly, being able to present this very well to the customer and be able to capture those signatures and have that for reference later on. What I'd like to show now is a little bit about the advanced quoting that we were talking about. So I'm going to go to the dispatch board, and on the dispatch board, I'm going to drag over this other dispatch that I have. I'm just going to drag it out to 4 p.m. for Ed again as well. Again, normally we would get a real nice notification here, but I do have those turned off. So right now I'm just going to refresh instead. And when I refresh, we should see that new dispatch appear here automatically. Now when we look at this dispatch, when I drill down into it, you can see that what we're doing out there is the service request code is to create a quote. So that's what we want to do this time. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Normally we would do our same status. So I'd change my status from a traveling status, eventually to a working status when I arrive at the job site. Right now I'm just going to do a shortcut and jump right to working, so we don't have to go through those steps, just in the interest of time. And now, when we scroll down to the very bottom, again, you're going to be able to see that in version 13, we're giving you the ability to view quotes directly from the dispatch. So this is perfect. Even if you're going out there to do some service work, you can see what you've quoted the customer in the past. So let's take a look and see if we have quoted the customer anything. You can see right now we did, but that quote was back from last year, and our prices have been updated since then. We always update them in January, so we want to go ahead and get them a new quote. If we want to, we can certainly take a look at this quote, see what was included on it, and make sure we get the same parts on there. At this point, we could also go ahead and edit this, accept it if we wanted to, and just go ahead and do the work for the customer right then and there. In this case, though, I want to show you how we create a quote in the field. So instead of accepting that existing quote, I'm going to tap Add Quote up here at the top. And when I go to Add Quote, we could tap Add Item up there in the upper right-hand corner and create it much like we did with the invoice. But another one of the new features we added to ESC, and this works both on quotes and on invoices, is the ability to scan barcodes. Now, we're scanning barcodes. It's actually going to change it's going to use the camera on the phone or the device as a barcode scanner. And let me just go ahead and bring up a part here. So you can see it went ahead and scanned that. I'm going to change my page, tap scan another barcode, and get a couple more on here. Now when you're scanning barcodes, you're going to notice that this barcode looks a little different than the ones you've seen in the past. This is what they call a QR code, and it's really designed to be read well with cameras. A lot of the scanning is really going to come down to the quality of the camera you have and the lighting that you have. With iPhones and iPads, we've given you this little icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. Let me move this over for a second so you can see it. Which will allow you to turn on the flash, which again gives you a little more light, makes it a little bit easier to read. You just line that up, it focuses, brings it in there. If I wanted to change the quantity on any of these, I could certainly do that and just tap or just scan the item again. Now we still go ahead and support normal barcodes as well. So if you're using cameras, if you're using the mobile devices, you can see that when we're looking at our inventory price list, when we're looking at any inventory labels that we print out, the ones that you can do when you're printing out labels or when you're receiving parts, we can choose whether we want to print those out as a QR code, which again is going to be easier to read with the camera, or if we want to go ahead and use the standard linear barcode, which is easier to read with conventional scanners. Now, a camera will still read these barcodes, but again, you have to be in good light, and you really want to print those out probably on a laser in order to get the best possibility of it being read. If you use an inkjet, the ink can bleed a little bit, makes it a little bit harder to see. So coming back here, we've added those parts to our quote, and now I'm just going to choose Done. So just by scanning those items, all three of them appear there automatically. So very, very fast, very, very easy to do once you have the barcodes in there. And this is just a phenomenal time-saving feature. Make sure you're always getting the right thing. One of the things that's very cool here as well is that if you're dealing with a larger piece of equipment and they've actually put a serial number barcode on there, you can scan the serial number as well, and it will automatically resolve it to the part number. So if it is a serialized item, try scanning the serial barcode first if you can, because it'll automatically save you the hassle of having to type that in after the fact. Now at this point, again, I've got the ability to present this to the customer just like we did before. So I can do this customer authorization signature, show them what they're getting into. This is what we're going to be doing. Does the customer want to go ahead and do this? Say yes, we can go ahead and capture that signature right then and there. And one of the things that we've done to try to make things even more powerful is giving you the ability, now that you're out there doing a quote and the customer is accepting it, we can actually accept a prepayment. Now, prepayments currently only work if you're using QuickBooks or ESC accounting. It's not currently supported by Sage 50, but we're hoping that'll come in the future. Right now, it's just those two programs, QuickBooks and ESC accounting. You can do the prepayments. And basically the way the prepayment works is we'll just go ahead and apply a payment like normal, like we normally would on an invoice anyway. I'm going to change this amount and just say we're doing a $400 deposit on that. Kind of locks the customer in, allows us to get the money, order the parts, do all this stuff so we can come back and later on do the work. And then I'll just put in the customer's check number and save it. Now at this point, I've got the payment on there so I can see the total outstanding amount as well as the total amount the customer's paid. I've got the signature and I can save the quote. And when I save the quote, this is where we'll have the option to go ahead and email that or print it just like we were just showing to the customer. So at this point we can go ahead and get all that information, and that works exactly the same, so I'm just going to bypass that for right now and just go straight to done. Now what's very cool about this is that in version 13 you have the ability to do a quote and an invoice all in the same dispatch. So you can invoice the customer for some work that you were doing today as well as quoting them for some work that you might be doing in the future. This is perfect if, again, they want to accept a Band-Aid solution now, but you still want to go ahead and give them what the real solution is in the future. So when we choose back here, it puts us right back in the dispatch. And in the dispatch, we have the ability to do anything we want here. At this point, just like a normal dispatch, we can add notes, we can view equipment, view the history, service agreements, create an invoice. At this point though, for the purposes of today's demonstration, I'm just going to say that we're done. So I'm just going to change the status to complete and choose OK. When I do that, again, it gives me a final review screen. And I'm just going to say, hey, we're going to finish with no invoice. We're fine with that. We were just out there quoting on this one. And again, confirm that's really what we want to do. And now it'll just take us right back to the dispatches. Now at this point, I kind of want to show you what happens back in the office, because this is something that's new and very, very cool. Back on our dashboard, when we take quotes in the field, particularly ones that have been accepted, we need to give the office some sort of clue that that's happened. So what we've done is given you the ability on the dashboard to add this new section called Quotes to be Scheduled. And if you click on this to refresh it, or every time you go into the software it refreshes automatically, you'll see all the quotes that have been accepted but not yet billed or dispatched. So this is our clue that, hey, we need to do something with these quotes. These quotes have been accepted, we need to either bill them, and let me just go ahead and get rid of that message. So we need to bill the customer, or we need to create a dispatch for them at this point so we can go out there and do the work. So we can see this is the one I just created for Russ and Mary Smith. And what I want to do is I want to recall it. So I'm just going to click on it right here. And when I do that, you're going to see it's automatically going to bring up the quote and let me know that prepayments have been tendered on it. So at this point, I can look over the quote, see all this information, everything looks good there. And at this point, I want to create a dispatch. So we're going to create a dispatch. That's going to be our key to go ahead and order the parts and eventually go out there and do the work once the parts come in. So I'm just going to choose Create Dispatch. And when I do that, I'm going to bring over all those parts because I want to make sure that we get all that information coming through. So I'll do that. You can see the parts came over with the same prices that we had on the quote. Our schedule's there, we can say what it is we're going to do, and at this point we're going to assign it, all the normal stuff that you guys are used to. So I'm going to save that. Now in doing so, this quote has also been saved, it's in the system, and I want to show you how that prepayment works. Because right now, I'm integrated with QuickBooks in this particular example, and I'm going to choose Post QuickBooks. When I do that, it's going to go through our normal posting process. Now this isn't necessary if you're using ESC accounting, but if we are using QuickBooks, the next time we post QuickBooks, you can see that prepayment is going over as well. It goes over right before the sales. And if I switch over to QuickBooks now, and I look at Russ and Mary Smith, you're able to see that prepayment appear there. So there's a prepayment for today, $400. Now where this gets really cool is when we finally go out there to do the work again. So we've got Russ and Mary Smith scheduled. Normally I'd put this in a back order the parts, and then when it came in I would assign it to a technician. Right now I'm going to kind of cut to the chase and just assign it back to Eddie, so you can kind of see what's going on overall. Now when Ed gets a notification on his mobile, he'll go back into dispatches, and in dispatches I think I'm going to have to click refresh here. We'll see Russ and Mary Smith appear again there. And at this point, again, it would be like a normal dispatch for the tech going out there to do the work, but some of the things that are a little different this time is that when we look at the invoice, down there at the very bottom, all those parts are already there. So the parts are already there, have all that information showing up, and more than that, the payments are already there. So the prepayment that we already had is showing up here as well. So it's already in QuickBooks. We already deposited that money. This could be 2 weeks later that we're going out there to finish up doing the work. We can see that there's already been a payment of $400, so the customer just has to pay the balance at this point. So I'm just going to go back and again just complete this really quick. So let me just get back out of here, change the status to complete. And again, it takes us to our review screen. We can see the invoice, we can see the payments, and we can see the outstanding amount. Now you'll notice that customer authorization is showing that the signature was captured, and that's because it was captured when we did the quote. The customer authorized the work at that point, so now all we have to do is get their acceptance that the work was done to their satisfaction. So again, we just tap on that again. It shows them exactly what work we did do, and allows us to tap down here on accept and capture the signature, so we can get that information and bring that back to the office as well. And then at this point, again, we would take our remaining payment. So just say, hey, we still need $489.89. So I'm just going to do a check for that balance. It automatically puts in the amount for me. I just put in the customer's check number, save it. So now we can see that this payment is being split between the $400 prepayment and the check for $489 now. I go back, and at this point, again, we're really ready to finish that up. I'm going to say yes, we're really sure. And at this point, we can print out that invoice, we can email the invoice, and they'll see both their authorization, they'll see the prepayment on there, they'll see their existing payment on there. All this information will be visible to the customer. So if I do view invoice here, you're able to see all that information right here on the PDF that would be created and printed. Although it looks like I need to change that invoice form a little bit. So we'd go back to our dispatch list, and that kind of is a encapsulated version of what we've done with version 13 on the mobile devices. So again, really just trying to make things easier for you guys to present professionally to the customer, to make it easier for you to use, and to go ahead and enhance the quoting features. Now I do want to take a moment and talk about some of the changes to ESC as well. One of the first things I want to mention is when we go back to the invoice in ESC, I'm going to create a new one here for a second. I'm just going to choose new invoice, select a customer, and the first thing I want to show you is the inventory search that we have in ESC. Just like on the mobile, we're trying to make it easier to find the parts that you're looking for. So now you don't have to choose between a billing code, a history code, inventory items. You just get to go ahead and start typing, and we're going to find stuff for you. So if I wanted to find a 3rd horsepower motor, I can type in 1/3, and as I do that, it's automatically looking for whatever it is I'm typing. Now what's really cool here is as I click on any one of these items, we're actually showing you more information off to the side. So we're able to show you what type of item this is, whether it's a stock item, an assembly item, a serialized part, the description, your A, B, and C prices, your categories, but even more importantly, we're able to show you, do you have this in stock, and if so, where? So you can see this right off the bat. We've got 2 in the main warehouse. That one's perfect. We want to put it on the invoice. Comes out of the main warehouse. Everything's great. Some other things that are kind of neat here is if I'm looking for like a 4 microfarad capacitor, I can just type in microfarad or my abbreviation for that, and again my abbreviation for capacitor because I'm far too lazy to type out that whole thing, and it's going to find all the things that match that. Even if microfarad and capacitor aren't next to each other, it's still finding those items. What gets really cool here is that if this is a flat rate item, you're able to see those flat rate levels here as well. So right off the bat, you can see, hey, these are all the flat rate levels, and this is an assembly item, so these are the parts that make it up. And we do have one in stock, so we're in good shape with this one. So we can choose that, and then just change our flat rate level right here to be whatever it is we wanted, and we're ready to rock. So some really nice features when it comes to looking for parts in ESC. And this doesn't apply just to the invoice, it also applies to the enter part screen when you're creating purchase orders. Any one of these will go ahead and bring that information up. And just like on the mobile, if we really know what part it is we're looking for, we type that in, it'll just bring it right up for us. Of course, again, since this is a full desktop app and we have the database readily accessible, we can just start typing in as well, and it'll autofill that for us just like it always has. So just trying to make it easier for you guys to add parts to invoices, to purchase orders, just to use inventory in general. Now, another one of the carryovers that came over from the enhancements we were doing with the mobile is also the ability to create those prepayments in the office. To do that, we would just create a quote, and again, I'm just going to do a new quote, choose a customer for that, and when we do that, again, we put our parts on here like normal. I'm just going to type in labor, because it's one I know off the top of my head, and at this point, I can click prepayment down here at the bottom, or up here on the toolbar. It brings up our normal tender screen, except this time, again, it's just going over as a prepayment, so this is a very, very easy way to create deposits. No longer do you have to create a quote, create a progressive bill for part of it. Right now, just create the quote, accept a prepayment on it. The next time you post to QuickBooks, it'll automatically go over there. Again, prepayments right now are only working with QuickBooks or ESC accounting.
And can you accept more than one, Eric?
Yes, absolutely. You can have up to 4. So that's what this add payment is here. So if I wanted to, I could say, hey, we're putting down $100 on the credit card, and then we're going to do another $100 on a check. And then we'll get the rest when we actually do the work. So we could easily do something like that and then save it. And then if you look at that quote again, you'd be able to see that those payments would be applied. You can see prepayments have been tendered on the quote. And right down here in the bottom, you can see that we've also revised the whole bottom section of the invoicing screen to make this a little bit clearer, make it a little bit easier, so you can see when payments have been applied, when prepayments have been applied, and really just kind of make this whole area just a little bit cleaner and nicer for you. One of the next things I want to talk about is that we've also made a couple minor changes to the merge fields when you're sending a status notification. So as we went out to the dispatch board, as I was assigning those dispatches, I had the dispatches set to go to a status called scheduled. And if we look at my status codes, my scheduled code sends out an email to the customer when that happens. And in the past, we used to give you the ability to tell the customer when you were going to be there, who the employee was, show the employee's photo. We've done some things to make it a little bit easier for commercial customers, including the location name, location address, dispatch number, and who placed that call for service. So if you want to add those fields to the email that goes out to customers, you certainly can do so. And if everything went right in my demo here, I actually sent that confirmation right here, so you can kind of get a feel for what that would look like. So you can see, here's the merge fields being filled out. So again, a very nice, neat feature that we've added to ESC. I was talking about the QR codes and the barcodes a little bit earlier on, and just to give you kind of a breakdown on that, in ESC you can print those out when you're doing print barcode labels. So at this point we would choose the barcodes that we wanted to print out, and these could be anything from history codes to billing codes. It doesn't have to actually be a particular inventory item. It can be anything. So I'm just going to say, hey, this is my coupon code. And we're going to print out one of those, and then when we go to print, it's going to give us the ability to choose whether we want to select print QR codes or barcodes. Again, QR codes better with cameras, barcodes better with linear readers. And you'll also have that ability when you're looking at reports. So if we're looking at a report, you can see we've got a price list with QR codes versus a price list with barcodes. Same thing, just what actually prints out looks a little bit different depending on which one you select. Again, these are the barcodes, and these are the QR codes. So pretty straightforward there. The other stuff that I really want to talk about, I can't show too easily, but for ESC accounting users, we've made things quite a bit easier, where if you've got an invoice that's been paid, we're allowing you now to actually modify the invoice even after the payment's made. So if you accidentally had the wrong department on there, it's very, very easy to go back in, change the department. Hey, you forgot the salesperson? Not a big deal. You want to update the history? You can do all of that. So made it much, much easier. Also tried to make things a lot easier when you're setting up payroll, just trying to streamline that whole process. Any kind of common payroll tax items, we're trying to make that really all set up for you. So that kind of covers the basics. There's a bunch of other things that happened in the software. Some of them are fairly minor, but some of them are actually really huge, although they don't necessarily impact features, but they are going to help you use the software. And I'd like to show you one of those really quickly. Right now, I'm connected with QuickBooks. I'm going to turn off my accounting server for just a moment and then try to save a customer. Now, most of you guys know that this should cause an error, and it's going to be a fairly benign error, just telling you, hey, we can't communicate with QuickBooks right at the moment. The next time you try to communicate with QuickBooks, it'll go ahead and post this customer, everything will be fine. But what I want to show you is that when we're bringing up an error now in ESC, there's a bottom section to that error that will take you right out to the ESC knowledge base and show you what causes that error and how to fix it, how to prevent it from happening again. So hopefully, again, if you run into anything strange, any issues you don't understand, we're going to give you the tools right within ESC to immediately fix that problem on your own. So again, we'll still be more than happy to help you out. We'll still be here. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the new website yet, but while that's coming up, let me just take you out there for a moment. And you can see that now we also have our live chat online, which is a fantastic way to go ahead and talk to us. A perfect way to get a quick question, particularly as you're going through and actually installing the software as you're doing this upgrade to version 13. Let me just switch back to ESC and see if it's got tired of waiting for QuickBooks yet. No, still waiting. So let me talk a little bit about how you can actually get to version 13 if you're not there already. Version 13 can be downloaded directly from the website. So you just come right out here to the downloads. When you go out to descosupport.com, you'll be looking at the support home screen to start out with. Just choose downloads, choose version 13, and then say that you want to upgrade ESC. From within Upgrade ESC, we're going to choose the full version upgrade. And this is going to give you a video showing you a lot of the same stuff we've already talked about today. Going to make sure that you're not using an old version of Peachtree. When it comes to XP and Server 2003, these are things that Microsoft is making going away. They're sunsetting their support for those products soon. We're kind of trying to get you guys to do that right now. Realistically, can you upgrade if you still have XP or Server 2003 as your server computer? You can, but if you were to install the new version of SQL, which is what we're distributing with ESC now, it would not take it. So this is just kind of a wake-up call. Just let's put this on the budget, make sure we're getting your server computer at the very minimum upgraded in the next year or so to something newer. You can get, if you're still really using Server 2003 or XP, a $500 computer at Best Buy is going to be a huge improvement. So it doesn't have to break the bank, but just something to be thinking about. And then at this point, we'll give you step-by-step instructions. So if you're running a modern version of ESC, just choose this. And basically, we're going to kind of walk you through the steps as you go through this. Whole thing doesn't take very long to do. And basically all we're doing is we're making a backup, we're uninstalling the old versions of ESC, we're installing the new versions. And really, it should be that simple. ESC is going to remember all the settings, so you're not going to have to reconfigure the accounting server, you're not going to have to reconfigure the connection server, you're not going to have to reconfigure the workstations. Just uninstall it, reinstall it, and you're done. But follow along with the steps here and it'll take you through that whole process. And then at the very end of that process, it's going to talk about one thing here that I want to mention before we go ahead and turn the floor open to questions, which is enabling the new features in version 13. This is a critical thing that I really like you guys to take a look at. It talks about these printing things that I was talking about earlier, but it also shows you how to do some critical things like how to set up that legal wording that we were showing on the mobile, where you go to do that. It shows you how to go ahead and modify your invoice forms so you can put those new signatures and your legal verbiage on the printed invoices or the ones that you're emailing to the customer. It talks about setting up your users so you can take advantage of the new quoting features, the printing, just some of the minor stuff that you have to do before you can really start using the software well. So do take a moment and look at that after you're done with the upgrade, because otherwise you're going to be saying, hey, I can't see some of those new features. It's showing some boilerplate language I want to change. This is how you're going to make sure that this is customized for you and your business. And let me just see if we've gotten tired of waiting here. It looks like we have. And let me bring up that error. So basically, errors coming up and saying, hey, we couldn't communicate with the server. I was actually hoping for a different error. Tell you what, I'll see if that comes up while we open up the floor to questions. Actually, here it is. And this is what I was talking about. Down here at the bottom, if you ever see one of these articles where it says, click here to display a knowledge base article, please do it, because it'll take you right out there to the knowledge base. It'll tell you why this error is happening and what you need to do to fix it. So quick, easy, painless, really hoping that we can get you to the point where you don't need to talk to us. But if you do, again, right up here at the top of that same page, you can chat with us online instantly. You can email us if you don't need a response right at the moment, or you can call us, and again, we'll put you in the call queue for a call back. So that kind of concludes what I wanted to talk about and show you guys the features of version 13. Let's go ahead and open up the floor to some questions.
Sure, and we have about 8 minutes left here and a whole lot of questions. So again, if we don't get to yours, you can either stay online with us, or if you can't stay online, I will personally make sure that you get an email back later on today with the answer to the question that you asked. So we got some questions in about barcodes. Specifically, can you print out the barcodes without any prices showing, just maybe the barcode and the description?
That's a good question. Let's take a look. If we come up here to Company and we choose System Setup, when we go to the Inventory tab, you're able to choose what appears on the barcode. So we can definitely say we want the cost to appear, nothing to appear, or our A, B, and C price. So that is configurable by you. So right now I can change that back to none and just choose OK. And then that way, again, it's really going to depend on the customer, which is fantastic, particularly if you're using the mobile, because if you have that customer set to use B prices, all they'll see is the B price. If it's set to use A price, all they'll see is the A price. And again, they don't even need to see the barcodes themselves.
Perfect. And question about any chance barcodes will be able to print from a wider range of printers?
Right now, I'm not aware that there's really any limitations on which printers can print barcodes. I would say that, again, if you're printing linear barcodes, the ones that look like a series of lines, you're better off doing that on a laser printer, and that's not a limitation of us. That's just to make it clear. When you use inkjet, particularly on absorbent paper or labels, that ink tends to bleed a little bit, tends to smear the legibility just a tad. The QR codes seem to be remarkably resistant to that. Very good for an optical thing, like again using the phones. But again, if you were going to use that in the office, you would need an optical QR reader, which is slightly more expensive than a typical linear barcode reader. But again, still a great way to do it. I think the only real limitations we have there are really just the size of the labels. And there is no change to the size of the labels in version 13 at the moment.
And what about barcodes for flat rate pricing?
Again, the beautiful thing is right now what you're doing is you're barcoding the item itself. So whether it's a flat rate task, whether it's an inventory part, a billing code, or even a history code, we can have a barcode for any one of those. And if it is a flat rate part, what you're going to see is when you scan that barcode in ESC or in the mobile device, you'll have the ability to choose the flat rate level at that point. So you're not scanning a particular level of the flat rate task, you're scanning the task itself and then picking the level. And like you saw in ESC, you're able to see all those levels really quickly when you're searching. On the mobile device, you're able to see them. There's a whole separate flat rate section that'll drop down and show you the price of all of those.
And after you scan a barcode, are you able to edit the description on the actual quote or invoice itself?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things we really want you doing on the mobile devices is in the past we took away, in version 12, we took away the ability to do invoice notes, because a better way to do that is just by editing the description of what it is you're doing. So if you're putting a labor code on there, if you're using a flat rate price, just edit the description, tell the customer exactly what it is you're doing. And you can also have those, like a labor billing code, automatically set up to post to the customer's history record. So something as simple as putting labor on there, even if you do it at a $0 value, can automatically update that customer's history record as well, and just make things a little bit easier for you.
Someone actually wanted to see, I know we had mentioned being able to view recent dispatches on your mobile device. Is that something you could show them?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, again, one of the new features here is we have an option to do recent dispatches. And when you choose this, it's going to show you everything that this technician has completed, I think, in the last 3 or 4 days. So you can quickly tap on any one of these dispatches and get more information about it. And at this point, you have the ability to, again, actually see all the information right here. And you can even go back to view that invoice, which is going to bring up that PDF version of the invoice. So again, if you needed to send it again to the customer, you could easily do so.
And on the authorization and acceptance signatures, can you change the verbiage of the wording?
Yeah, absolutely. So to do that, that's part of that whole help topic, which is enabling the new features, which you're going to get to at the very end of your upgrade process. But basically what it's going to tell you to do is go into ESC, go to your company pull-down menu, choose System Setup, and in here there is a new mobile tab. And on this mobile tab, you'll have what you want to call the authorization, and then the legal wording that you want to put in there, and same thing with the acceptance. Hey, this is what you want to call it, and this is what you want it to say. If you do put the stuff in there and you want it to print out on the invoice, the other part of this, which is again covered in that help topic, is coming to File, going to Print Options, and on the Forms tab, we're going to customize an invoice. So you just choose whatever invoice you wanted, and there's a whole new section over here that's going to allow you to put all that information in there, which is the contract title, the contract itself, the signature, contract title, the contract verbiage, and then the signature for the acceptance. So you'll have the authorization as well as the acceptance, and you can see on mine, I just placed those down here at the bottom and gave them a little bit of space for both of those. So very simple to do, but it is something that we can't do for you. Right now you might have modified those invoice forms, put your own logos and stuff on them. We can't blow that stuff out, so this is something you're going to have to go in and manually add on your own. And when you do this, basically you just check that off. Normally that's going to appear in the upper left-hand corner. So you would just drag it down to wherever you wanted to, and again, I would just put it down below the body of the invoice so it doesn't have the possibility of overwriting anything that you have in the body of the invoice itself.
Another question on the barcodes, not to go back to that, Brett. If the rate changes on an item, do you have to go ahead and then print out new barcodes?
If you're printing the amount on the barcodes, it's probably a good idea to do that. So that might be a really good reason not to print that price on the barcodes themselves. Now the beautiful thing with all the mobile clients is that these prices are updated automatically. Unless you're using the laptop client, if you're using the iPhone, the Android, the Windows Phone 7 or 8 devices, all that information, the pricing update is instant. So as soon as you have a new pricing change, the tech's going to get it that same day, no hassle, no fuss, no muss. You can update prices on a daily basis. The techs will never know, they won't care, it'll just appear right on there. And again, that's what they're showing to the customer. They're not showing them the old price book anymore. Now they're showing them the device, they're showing it nicely laid out, getting the customer's authorization to get the work done, and moving forward from there. So I'd say there's very little call to put the price on the barcodes unless you're doing like maybe a cost for inventory warehouse purposes, but it wouldn't be something I would put anywhere the customer could see it.
So on these new changes, new features to ESC Mobile, are there any differences between smartphone, tablet, and laptop? What features are going to be available?
Really, it mostly comes down to screen real estate. When we're looking at the new printing features, obviously the different operating systems handle that different ways. When you're looking at scanning barcodes, again, the camera that comes with the device becomes a little more important. Something with a better camera, with a brighter light, all affects the readability of those barcodes. So again, if you're really looking to go barcoding, test it out. Test out the devices first. Right now, we allow you to change devices readily. So if you've got an old iPhone now and you want to try the brand new HTC One or the Galaxy 4, by all means, go ahead and get one. Just run to the store, set it up, download the app. The app's free. You can just type in your credentials there real quick. Try it out. Make sure it's really going to work for you, because that's what we really want. And unfortunately, we just don't have a whole lot of control over the camera. So we can definitely allow it to scan, but again, it's going to be at the mercy of the hardware to some extent, much like that voice recognition that we were playing with earlier.
Perfect. Well, it is 4:01, so being mindful of everyone's time, I am going to go ahead and conclude the audio portion of today's presentation. We do have several questions still out there, so please, if you could stay online with us, we'll keep chatting with you to make sure you get the answers. Or again, I will go ahead and email you later on today to make sure you get the answer that you're looking for. But I just want to thank Eric and everyone for attending today. And once again, this webinar will be recorded, so we will send you out a link to this recording. Feel free to share this with others in your office. And if you have any questions, go ahead and use that descosupport.com site where you can chat with us online, email or call us at 1-800-226-7529. We'd be happy to help you out. And if you like today's webinar, you'd certainly like our regional training classes. Our next class is ESC Accounting. That's going to be on August 16th and 17th in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're interested, please give us a call or email us, or you can actually go to descosupport.com to register for that as well. So again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you very much, guys.